Welcome to the Bernette b08 straight stitch sewing machine. My name is Holly Ann, Knight of String and Story, and I am so excited to introduce you to this amazing machine. First up, let's pull her out of the box and see all the goodies that come with this stunning straight stitch machine. We have our foot pedal, of course, our knee lift, power cord, a little box of tools, and then this handy dandy quick guide that's going to show you everything you need to get started with the b08 as soon as you pull it out of the box. Let's take a closer look of everything that's inside this handy dandy little toolbox. You have a thread net for keeping your threads tidy as they come off the spool, as well as a spool cap. Then there's this stitch guide that you can line up thicker fabrics to help maintain a nice straight sewing line. Lots of bobbins for all of your different thread color needs. For keeping our machine clean, we of course have our lint brush. We have screwdrivers for changing feet and sole plates. Speaking of feet, the skinny foot is so cool. The machine oil, a cone attachment, and some sample thread. Next up, let's look at all the features here on our machine. This is our presser foot pressure, so how much that foot presses down. Then our tension knob for adjusting the tension on that top thread. From there, we're going to have our stitch length over on the far right side, a little knob on the side of the machine that we can make much longer or shorter. Then our needle up and down feature, our bobbin winding, our speed adjustment, our scissors, and of course, our reverse lever. I'm going to show you how all these work as we start sewing. In order to get going, we need to turn on our machine and wind our first bobbin. We're going to raise up this wire to guide our thread and put a spool of thread there on one of the pins. Notice there are two spool pins back here. That's because you can wind a bobbin while sewing from a separate spool of thread. So we're going to go through that guide right there in front of our spool pin and then through a tension disc and bring it on around to our bobbin. Wrap it around a few times to make it nice and secure. And then click that mechanism over towards the bobbin itself before we hit the button in order to make this start turning. And off it goes. Once our bobbin is wound, we can clip that thread and open up this handy door in the quilting table in order to get to our bobbin mechanism. It takes a little bit of practice the first couple of times to open up all these doors and get that plate off, but once you get the hang of it, it makes it so much easier to reach in there and get this bobbin casing without having to take your whole quilting table off. That is just an absolute game changer if you are in the thick of things and working, to not have to completely deconstruct your workspace in order to change a bobbin. Make sure your bobbin is going the correct direction and floss it all the way through the edge of that there, of the bobbin case there underneath that little metal plate, and then you'll hear a click as you put the bobbin back into the machine. Close up all those little doors, 2 doors into plate removal, and we're ready to rock and roll. Now, as you begin to thread this machine, you're going to notice a few different things. So first, we're going to go from our spool of thread up to that wire above the machine and then through 2 of these holes of this 3-hole mechanism. If you have thick thread, you're going to actually hit all 3 of these holes, but I'm using Aurifil 50 weight. I don't need anything too thick. Through that first pressure tension disc, down under the second tension disc, and over the little wire before going under the hook. Don't forget that little wire, it's really important. There are a few more little loop spots right above that second tension disc that, again, if you're using thicker thread, you'll want to follow the guide directions inside that quick guide for threading through there. But I'm just going to go up through this hook and then through our thread hook at the top and back down towards the needle mechanism. All right, so just reviewing here all the places that I went through with my thread, clip under that hook again, and come down and prepare to thread the needle. There is a wire just above the needle. Don't forget that one. So you've got this hook here and then the wire back at the needle. That one, again, little fiddly, takes a little practice. You'll get the swing of it as you thread this a few times. And then we can use our needle threader in order to thread the needle. You'll pull the needle threader down and push it back against the needle before loading it, because this needle loads from the side. So the eye of the needle is on the left-hand side. So down and over, and then loop that thread under the hook of the needle threader and floss under its little teeth, and it will easily loop through the needle and thread it for you and save your eyesight. Let's look at that at a different angle just so you can see. So here you can see that hook up above the needle, the wire right at the needle, and then we take that needle threader, go down and over, loop on the first tooth, and then the little teeth that are around the needle, we're going to floss it up underneath there and hold that thread in place as we gently guide it through the eye of the needle and pop that needle threader back up. Now we are all ready to sew. So let's take a look first at the speed of this machine. I'm going to lower my presser foot at the back. This is a manual presser foot lower. Once it's down, I can raise or lower with the knee lift, or if I need extra clearance, I can actually push up on that spring with the foot, and then I can set my needle to end in the down position. Here is the machine at its slowest speed. Again, depending on how I have that needle set, it'll either end up or down when I complete my sewing, and here it is going at its fastest speed. Notice if I hit that reverse while I'm sewing quickly, it's going to maintain speed while changing directions, which is just absolutely thrilling if you love to sew quickly the way that I do. Look at these gorgeous stitches, by the way. They're stunning on the front and the back. Now let's look at the power of the machine. This is a piece of canvas. I have it doubled over 2 layers. We're going to lower our foot and plow down it from one end to the other. Sews absolutely through this like butter. We're going to double it over again. So we now have 4 layers of canvas that we're going to sew through. I'm sewing in roughly the same place on all of these, so when I show you the back, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to see how beautiful the stitches are in the back of the fabric, but they are crispy and gorgeous. Doubling again to have 8 layers of canvas, lower that foot, sews through it like butter. And then for our final layer, we are actually going to go one more time, so we go through 16 layers of canvas. If you're working on this with bags, you're doing anything with leather, canvas, other thick fabrics like oilcloth, you may want to consider lengthening your stitch if you notice any kind of hesitation from the machine. I've got this at like a stitch length of 2.5, 3, Orifil 50 weight thread, super fine thread, sewed right through it, not a problem at all. I was truly impressed by this. Even though I have done this experiment on this machine several times, I'm still very much in awe of the way that it can create quite a thick piece of fabric with its sewing. Thank you so much for joining me as we have taken this look at the Bernette b08 straight stitch machine. Hopefully this gives you an overview of its power, its speed, and its amazing durability. Be sure to check out the links below for shopping and a further review.